Hi there, this is Architect David Barcelona. Welcome to Arkida, where you will learn anything and everything about construction. For this episode, we will be discussing Fibonacci in relation to interior design and other disciplines. The golden ratio is a design concept based on using the Fibonacci sequence to create visually appealing proportions in art, architecture, and graphic design. The proportion, size, and placement of one element compared to another creates a sense of harmony that our subconscious mind is attracted to. Therefore, this golden ratio is one of those design rules that are really helpful to use when creating a room scheme from scratch or rebalancing an existing one. If you are just starting out in interior design or just need help creating balanced spaces, it's one of those design formulas that is worth referring to. We are aware that a 1 is to 1.618 is way too complicated for most of us to comprehend. So swap that out for a ratio of 60 is to 40 instead. And it becomes that much more useful for interior design. This can also be subdivided into a different ratio. Some call it the 60-30-10 rule, which is also based off the ratio, making it much more easier to apply practically as you consider each element of your room using this ratio, from the scale of your furniture and structural detail, right down to the color scheme and textural components. So again, what is the golden ratio of a room? The golden ratio of a room can refer to its proportions, example, the height, the width, and length, which is often used to ensure not only visual balance but good acoustics too. In theory, a room should be 1.6 times wider and 2.6 times longer than it is taller to achieve perfection. But of course, this is not always practical or possible. Often, however, great room proportions are just something we get a feeling for when we enter them for the first time. The golden ratio for color scheming. Any balanced room scheme needs to have good proportional representation of colors, textures, and patterns. For example, in a two-color room scheme, the dominant color will cover around 60% of the surfaces, while the complementary secondary accent color will cover around 40%. You can, of course, break this down further so that 60% is the dominant color, 30% is the secondary color, and 10% the tertiary. Color is a great way to get started with this theory. Choose your three tones and split them into these ratios. 60% of your space should be one color, perhaps through the paint on your walls and large pieces of furniture. Choose another shade to be your 30% color and apply it through textiles, such as curtains and rugs. Finally, use your third color through accents and accessories, using it across 10% of your space to create a balanced and well thought out look that will appear almost effortless. The golden ratio to introduce pattern. The golden ratio is really useful when introducing pattern to a scheme. Let's say you want a space with three complementing patterns but don't know how to get the balance right. Well, the principles above are the same. The pattern you want as your main choice will cover 60% of the surfaces, designated as patterns, perhaps a sofa. 40% of the patterns, you think of cushions, will be covered on your second pattern. Again, you can scale this up and break it down so that the 60% represents a patterned wallpaper, 30% represents a sofa fabric, and two sets of 5% represents different patterned cushions. Knowing how to mix patterns in a room successfully can help you get this right. The golden ratio to get a balanced room layout. Ever been struck by living room layouts that seem either underfurnished or cluttered with furniture and felt the lack of balance? The golden ratio can help you strike the right note. Using the 60-40 formula, measure up floor space, then take measurements of the floor space covered by furniture. If the furniture fills more than 60% of the area of the floor, the room is overfurnished. If it is much lower than 60, it is likely to feel on the unfriendly side of minimal. So ideally, aim for a layout that leaves 40% of the floor clear. The golden ratio for choosing furniture. The balance of positive space, which is the furnished part, and negative space, which is unfurnished, in interior design that we talk about above, will also help you choose furniture that's the right size, allowing you to scale up or down a sofa or coffee table so that it's in proportion not just to the room's floor area, but to other items of furniture too. Let's take a typical seating grouping in a living room, like the picture on the right. The sofas each represent around 60% of the space. The smaller coffee table is around 40%. So if you are choosing a sofa, you will want to look for a coffee table that's around two-thirds its length for a balanced feel. Any larger and it will feel too big. Any smaller and it will feel more like a misplaced side table. The golden ratio for displaying accessories. Let's talk about coffee table styling ideas as a great example of how to apply the golden ratio here. Ideally, whatever you are displaying on the coffee table surface should take up no more than 40% of the space to look neat. Similarly, cushions on a sofa should leave 60% of the seating area clear. Perhaps you want to furnish shelving with books and objects to display? Devote 60% to the books and 40% to show off your favorite items that you will have the balance right. The golden ratio for hanging art. When considering which pieces of art to display in a space, think about the golden ratio to get the perfect proportions. Look at investing in a piece that's one-third or two-thirds the size of the wall space for a brilliant balance. If you like large pieces of statement artwork, you choose the latter. You can use the golden ratio to get the picture height right too. Pictures need to be hung near the furniture below them than the ceiling above. Think 40% of black wall below and 60% above. We now go to the golden ratio in marketing and graphic design. In typography hierarchy, when creating any design that uses text, always consider messaging hierarchy in your layout, whether it's a poster, a wedding invitation, or a website layout. You can use the golden ratio to guide your typography sizes. For example, let's say when you're working out your copy hierarchy for your real important text, which is letter A, then your sort of important text, letter B, and your not so important text, which is letter C. If your smallest font size for C is 10 pixels or px, then multiply that by 1.618 and to get a rough guide for the next or the succeeding larger sizes. In your layout, you use the golden rectangle, obviously with the arc removed, as a guide to organizing content that's easy to scan and more attractive to the viewer. Place the larger, more important information within the large curved section and the smaller, less important information within the tight arcs on the right. In photography, have you ever wondered how photographers capture such great images? One trick professional photographers use is called the rule of thirds. The rule of thirds isn't as precise and mathematical as the golden ratio, but it works just as well when capturing balance and captivating. Basically, the rule of thirds works by breaking an image down into thirds, horizontally and vertically, so that you have 9 parts. Similar to the golden rule, it makes the photo more pleasing and natural to the eye than something dead-centered. You may find the rule of thirds grid activated on your smartphone. If not, you can access the grid in Instagram's adjustment layer. It's like they want you to populate the social hub with beautifully balanced compositions. For logo design, a well-conceived logo is vital to your brand so people can understand your core message at almost a single glance. That's why it's a great idea to consider the golden ratio when designing a logo to instantly draw people in and help them connect. In fact, many of the biggest brands in the world use the golden ratio to form their logos. Pepsi, Apple, and Twitter, to name just a few. When designing a logo, you can even imagine the Fibonacci sequence as a series of circles, then rearrange them to form a grid as the foundation of your logo design. This is the basis of many logos, including the Twitter brand. Click the subscribe button to discover all the other videos in this site. Click the notification bell to be notified about new videos that we post. If you have additional comments, please post them down below or at our Arkida Facebook page, and I will answer all your queries. Thank you.